So I covered this before in the reading of Genesis. Okay. So Noah had three sons, Ham, Japheth, and Shem. So the Hebrews come from the line of Shem. So Ham was to be a slave to both his brothers, but Shem was not mistreating Ham like Japheth does. So when we broke covenant, now we became enslaved to Japheth as well. That is your Eurasia, your Europe and Asia. That was part of Grand Tortoria at the time. So now those are brothers, the brotherhood. So we became enslaved to them. That's why they came into our lands during the so-called doctrine of discovery and took our lands, genocide our people, and enslaved them. But it was supposed to be for 400 years. And then they're supposed to release our lands back to us. So now, last year before Pope Francis passed away, he said we're in the year of the Jubilee, so all the lands go back to the original inhabitants. You notice after he said that, that's when Trump started this campaign to go after all the red nations, to kick them out, put them in camps, concentration camps with the ICE raids, because the ones that did the discovery of our people, the so-called discovery of our people, Christopher Columbus, those are Jews, Khazarians. The ones that run the Vatican, Khazarians. The ones that run the British monarch, Khazarians. So I don't understand, if America is trying to kick out the so-called illegals, why is Trump sending the Latinos from Canada to El Salvador? Why does he have jurisdiction over Canada and El Salvador, and they're being really mistreated over there? They're calling them murderers and killers. That's the same thing when they wrote our history books, that they said that the people in our lands, the natives, were savages. Anything to make themselves look good and excuse themselves for their behavior of coming into our land and genociding us, enslaving us, and stealing our lands, because they're doing it again. In the scriptures, it tells you that they will come and do the same thing again, that they will try to do the same thing again. So in the reading, this is the battle of Gog and Magog, because Gog and Magog is China and Russia. And again, they're all part of the brotherhood because they're all descendants of Japhet. They all work for the Vatican. They all work for them, including Mexico. That's why they're in Mexico right now. Who is the president? It's a female Khazarian who's running Mexico. And I will come to Mexico back in a minute. So you see in the reading Ezekiel, it tells you that they will try to come back to our lands again when we are just like minding our business, and we're not doing anything. And then they will come and say, let's do this again. And I will capture them, the booty, and make many slaves of them. So that's what they're doing right now. But Daddy said that he is going to, this is a snare. He says he's going to lead them to the valley, right, of Jehoshaphat. And then he's going to rain on them. And he's going to cause a big earthquake to take place and take them all out. And they said that this battle will last 7 years. And then we will make a vast graveyard for Gog and his army. So this is a snare to them because they think this is going to happen again. So why do you think that right now a lot of the ICE agents are Israeli soldiers? They're not Israelites, Israeli soldiers. Why? Because they're the same people. So I'm also going to share with you a video because Mexico City is run by the Jesuits. Because Mexico City was part of our kingdom. So in Utah, the Four Corners is Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado. Well, Mount Zion, Daddy's temple, was in Utah, and that territory was all part of Mexico. And that's why there were so many wars around the area, and Mexico lost that portion because that was the old temple. That was Daddy's temple. And then America took over. But our lands were divided. The scripture says that they will come into our lands and they will divide our lands among themselves. And that's exactly what they did. But again, this is history repeating itself. They are trying to do the same thing. That's why this is a witch hunt after our people, because they're trying to get rid of the original owners of the lands. Because once you get rid of the original owners of the land, then they're going to enslave everybody else that's in America, because you guys are not the original owners. So the bankers will still have hold in property, and in the company, these corporations and companies will still have a hold over America and over the inhabitants of America. And they know that. That's why they need to get rid of the original landowners, which are the red nations. And that's why they're going to Canada, to the islands, because they're in the islands right now. They're in South America, they're in Central America, they're in America. They're only going after the red nations. Okay, so wake up, red nations, especially right now. If you're breaking covenant, especially because this holiday, there's gonna be kicking off Christmas, Christmas Eve, New Year's. That's a holiday. That's a pagan holiday, and they know that. So they know when you're breaking the law of Yahuwah, you have no protection from Yahuwah. And in the spiritual realm, they have access to you because you're breaking the law, because you're celebrating the sun god. This is the birth of Nimrod. This is what it is.
The organization owns the most land in the world privately, or 177 million acres, or a little larger than Texas at 177 million acres, or a little larger than Texas at 277,000 square miles. And you probably guessed it, it's the Catholic Church and the Vatican. And the real estate investments have been controversial as a church. But when I saw this in person, actually, I thought it was weird what they own. This observatory, which is in Arizona on Mount Graham, is what they call VORG, which stands for Vatican Observatory Research Group. Now, why would a Catholic church that ridiculed people in the 1500s that looked at the stars and said that the sun was the center of the universe, or at least our galaxy, is now doing the total opposite of actually researching? And on top of that, instead of owning all that land, why don't they sell it and help people? Help people that are starving or whatever else. But that's crazy.
In 1493, the Catholic Church declared that when European Christian nations discovered lands inhabited by non-Christians, they had the right to claim and govern them. According to this doctrine of discovery, indigenous peoples could live there, but they were not recognized as full owners of their land. Centuries later, this idea became U.S. law in the Supreme Court case Johnson and Graham's Lessee versus McIntosh in 1823. Chief Justice John Marshall ruled that ultimately, discovery by Europeans gave them ultimate dominion over native lands. Native nations could occupy the land, but only the U.S. government could truly own or sell it. This legal foundation, an assault on native sovereignty and relationship with the land, paved the way for federal policies that removed children from their families and placed them in Indian boarding schools, all in the name of civilizing and assimilating them. The doctrine of discovery didn't just claim land, it justified systems that tried to erase native identity. Its impact still echoes in native communities today.
So his name was Cristobal Colon. So his family was Jewish. And in the country he was in, they had to transfer over or they were going to get kicked out. They had to become Christians. So why everyone thinks Christopher Columbus was a Christian, he grew up Jewish bloodline, Jewish family. So he put on a front. This is how you know it's stamped, though. This is how you know it's stamped. He set sail on August 3rd, 1492. The day after the expulsion of Jews from Spain, he took sail.
He was forced up?
They got kicked out, bro. And that's what it was. And they told him, they said basically, this is most likely what happened. You got kicked out. They knew he's still in his heart, he's Jewish. Hey, listen, Columbo, go and try to find homeland for you guys. So America was already promised to them. That's why they run it now. And bro, the shit was promised to them. And they were gonna name America after Columbus. But before he got to America, savage. But guess the textbooks we read were...
I was just about to say, they told us what our whole...
McGraw-Hill.
Yeah.
And guess who McGraw-Hill is? Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. He owned that.
This is one of the darkest things I've ever read in history, and it's about Columbus meeting the natives. In his letters, he writes, "They are very simple and honest and exceedingly liberal with all they have, none of them refusing anything he may possess when he is asked for it. They exhibit great love towards all others in preference to themselves." He says, "They are the best people in the world and above all the gentlest, without knowledge of what is evil, nor do they murder or steal. They love their neighbors as themselves, and they have the sweetest talk in the world, always laughing." After saying all that, he then writes, "They would make fine servants." With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want.
Wow.
Is that not the most brutal thing you've ever heard?
What you need to understand is our history is nothing but his story, and the victors write the story, unfortunately. And the victors in our current timeline, in our current narrative, the information that we receive as fact, all of that is based on the most heinous, vicious, horrible people on the face of the earth, because those are the people that won control of the earth. I mean, you heard it right there. That was the mindset of the people that took control of the earth. And the mindset of the people that currently control us is the same, if not way, way worse than that. So please stop pretending that we live in this fantasy land of butterflies and rainbows. Stop pretending that we live in a country that is free, and start to wake up. Start to learn the truth, because that will set your mind free. And I gotta tell you, the only thing in this world that is ever going to be free is your mind. So at least learn that. At least free that. And learn things. I love you all so much. This video is my opinion.
And who were the owners of these slave ships? Who were the biggest slavers in the 16th century? The Ashkenazi were the biggest slavers in the 16th and 17th century, going into the 18th century. You see, Ashkenazi slaving was huge. This is from, I have to be careful when I say this, so my sources, it's always best to go with Jewish sources, right? Because you just trod on a bunch of toes. So we'll go with the Jewish sources. There's a ton of sources out there, but I'll stick with the Jewish ones because that's just safer. The Jewish scholar Jonathan Shorshak says this: Jewish merchants routinely possessed enormous numbers of slaves temporarily before selling them off. If a slave auction fell on a Jewish festival, it was postponed due to lack of buyers and sellers. The Jews of Suriname gave their slave plantations Hebrew names such as Machanaim, Nachamu, and Goshen. Rabbi Herbert Bloom adds that the slave trade was one of the most important Jewish activities. Jewish slaving is in fact confirmed by the Jewish Encyclopedia.
This American Jerusalem, let's turn to the Book of Mormon, the record of the Israelites on this continent. In 1 Nephi, Lehi flees a wicked Jerusalem. The scripture is very specific about their initial path. It says in 1 Nephi 2:5, he came down by the borders near the shore of the Red Sea. For centuries, we've been conditioned to picture that in the Middle East. But let's use our map decoded by the master key, the seal portion of the Book of Mormon. Where was this American Jerusalem? The clues point to the land now called Utah, the ancient kingdom of Judah, with its Great Salt Lake, the true Dead Sea. If Lehi fled from this region, this Jerusalem, and traveled south down the Colorado River Basin, he would come down by the borders near the shore of the Red Sea, the Gulf of California. The geography matches the scripture perfectly when you use the right map. And the scripture then says they traveled nearly a south-southeast direction along its borders before building a ship and launching into the great waters. If you sail from the west coast of Mexico, you're caught by the powerful North Pacific Gyre and the California Current, natural oceanic highways that propel any vessel westward. They guide you directly into the heart of Polynesia. They guide you to Hawaii, the Isles of the Sea, prophesied in Isaiah.
Know that Mexico has been the Latin American country that has had to face the most foreign armies in its entire history? Yes, it first had to confront Spain, which tried to reconquer Mexico on several occasions. One of the most famous attempts was the landing in Tampico in 1829. Then it faced the United States, first during the invasion, where Mexico ended up losing half of its territory. Afterwards, during the Mexican Revolution, the Americans took the port of Veracruz, and later came the punitive expedition against Pancho Villa in Chihuahua. In that same period, it also fought against the French, who in 1862 tried to impose an empire in Mexico. But they did not arrive alone. Along with them, the Mexicans also had to face the Belgian Legion, the Algerian regiments, Austro-Hungarian soldiers, even Poles, all sent to defend the emperor. Finally, during World War II, Mexico fought against the Japanese Empire by sending Squadron 201. This squadron participated in the campaign to liberate the Philippines. So, in a little more than a century, Mexico has faced armies from at least 9 different countries.
Rome is in the middle of the Americas. It's all a Roman corporation. Every time I see the Mexican flag, I see the Italian flag, because it's exactly the same, minus the Roman eagle. Rome, which runs Mexico, in fact, Mexico is the center, Mesoamerica, it's the center of the Americas. This is where the Jesuits came, installed their Inquisition. Mexico had a violent, vicious Inquisition. They're telling you in your face, if you know what you're looking for, they've got the eagle, the Roman eagle, right in the middle of the green, red, and white. Exactly the same as the Italian flag, which comes from the Persian flag, which is horizontally green, white, and red. Because the Roman elite families, the Farneses in particular, the Orsini, the Pallavicinis, Aldobrandinis, they're all from Persian. They're all Iranians.
Reason and the dark truth about why Trump wants to merge Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Now, back in the day when I found out about the globalist elites and their one world government agenda, this was a massive part of it, merging Canada, the United States, and Mexico as well. This is 100% all about control, and we cannot trust any of these political leaders. You must understand that the political leaders that are in place are just puppets and slaves to the people at the top making the real decisions. This on the back of your dollar bill means New World Order. I do not feed any of this in my reality whatsoever, because I know that we are much more powerful, much more connected to the source than these parasites. But I'm telling you right now, this has been a plan for a very long time. I knew that they were trying to do this over 10 years ago. It has nothing to do with the economy, nothing to do with money, anything like that. It has everything to do with control. The United States is the headquarters for these parasites, and they want to establish total control over Canada and Mexico in the first step of their New World Order plan. Trust me when I say this, they cannot stop what is happening with the evolution of human consciousness. We are breaking free from these systems and these paradigms. We will be the ones who create this free new world for ourselves. So it's time to choose your side, freedom or slavery.
Amazing. Miss Claudia Sheinbaum elected the first Jewish leader of Mexico. Good for her. Amazing. Really amazing. She doesn't have a drop of Mexican blood in her. She didn't marry a Mexican. And she's not even the same religion as everybody else. So that's really amazing. How did something this amazing even happen? Apparently it started a few years ago when George Soros paid $60 million to buy into Univision and 17 Mexican radio stations. And through that control of the media was a lot of influence. So they were able to spend lots of money, time, and effort to put this woman into power. So that's how easy it's done, huh? Just control of the media. Oh, and speaking of which, look at what George Soros is doing to American media and American radio stations now, too. One man should not have this much influence. And if we really want a fair democracy and a democracy that's not an illusion, we really need to break up these media monopolies and stop single people from having this much influence.
You know, Mexico just held a military parade that stunned the world. Soldiers marched through Mexico City, but this time, Russian and Chinese troops were right beside them. For many, it felt less like a parade and more like a message. Two global rivals standing proudly in America's backyard. Is it just friendship or the start of a new world order?
Mexico could legitimately challenge American control over territories seized in 1848. And the United States may lack the strength to resist such a challenge. This isn't historical nostalgia or romantic nationalism. This is cold strategic analysis of a perfect storm converging. The deep legal illegitimacy of America's original land grab, the visible internal collapse of American unity, and Mexico's inevitable rise from subordinate partner to indispensable anchor of North American economics. For the first time since the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, Mexico has leverage and America has vulnerabilities that could fundamentally redraw the map of North America. I've spent my career studying how empires expand and contract, how territorial arrangements that seem permanent suddenly become negotiable when power balances shift. What we're witnessing today represents something unprecedented, a 19th century territorial settlement being challenged by 21st century legal, economic, and demographic realities that the original conquerors never anticipated. The legal foundation for American control over the Southwest has always been questionable, but today it would be considered flatly illegal under modern international law. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo wasn't negotiated, it was imposed. After invading Mexico, occupying its capital, and threatening complete annexation, the United States demanded half of Mexico's territory in exchange for withdrawing its armies. This wasn't diplomacy, it was extortion backed by military force. Under contemporary international legal standards, the treaty would be void from the moment of signing. The Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties clearly states that agreements concluded under coercion are invalid. Any treaty signed today under circumstances remotely similar to 1848 would be declared illegitimate by the international community within days, not decades. But legal precedent alone doesn't determine territorial arrangements. Power does. For 170 years, American military and economic dominance made legal challenges irrelevant. Mexico couldn't question American control because Mexico lacked the strength to do anything about it. That fundamental equation is changing. The United States today is arguably weaker internally than at any point since the Civil War. Half the country considers the other half illegitimate. 30 states regularly challenge federal authority on issues ranging from immigration to health care to election administration. Texas governors behave like heads of micronations rather than state executives. The federal government cannot.
Dear comrades, AIPAC has just extended to Latin America. The American Friends of Isaac Accords is an Israeli non-profit organization that seeks to re-establish, strengthen, and culturally connect Latin America and Israel. Now, this non-profit Israeli organization is obviously a political front, in contrast to the anti-Zionist movements within Latin America facing U.S. imperialism and Zionist activities within Latin America, both present and past. With Argentinian President Javier Milei hosting AFOIA, or American Friends of Isaac Accords, within Argentina itself, we are seeing, and we are going to start seeing, a lot more rightist think tanks, Zionist think tanks, and a lot of Zionist infiltration of American politics. And by American politics, I'm not just referring to the United States, of course, but also Latin America in consequence. Now, this comes to no surprise. We all know Israel has been malevolently involved in Latin America, but to a degree untold of this level. We will be seeing a lot more Zionist talking points, a lot more Zionist political candidates, a lot of more Zionist political movements within Latin America. But keep in mind this, Javier Milei, president of Argentina, is the one who promoted and initiated this. So we will be seeing Argentina as the regional driver for the Zionist colonial AIPAC front within Latin America. Dear
want to build Anyways, I presented some identities, okay, of certain ICE agents located specifically in Chicago. A group that I associate myself with went through some public records and found over 2,000 ICE agents, right? Well, throughout those 2,000 ICE agents, specifically 121 of them, right, had experience as an ex-IDF soldier. If you went up and down this entire list of individuals, you'd notice that their last names in particular, right, all lead back to one specific location with no other job experience. And maybe it won't let me post it because it's personal information, I have no idea. But there's literally a whole motherfucking list of these people, and they all look the same. Which tells me exactly why they're choosing to hide their faces, because just imagine, right, if some information like that were to get out, which is why I'm making this video once again. I'm just saying, if you look into the background of these specific individuals, you might notice that they're not exactly a US citizen. That in itself would prove everything, especially why they're acting the way.
The USCIS, I don't know if you heard about this. This is starting in the fiscal year of 2026. He's ordering the USCIS to send him 100 to 200 denaturalization cases per month. Test them, okay? So people that have been naturalized citizens, they're gonna take 100 to 200 people per month. Where in the past 8 years, they've taken 127 cases. That is less than 12 cases per year. Now they're ramping that up to 10. Sorry. They're ramping that up to 100 to 200 per month. You didn't know that, did you?
And again, it's things that haven't actually happened yet. So, I mean,
no,
I guess
but it's
none of us
going to. No, we know it. It was released. We read articles. We read the news. This is in the New York Times. This is done by the Trump administration. Just because you haven't read the news because it hasn't come to you, because I don't know where you get your news from. It's probably a right-leaning source where they're not going to tell you that Trump is going after people that voted for him. Because if you're a naturalized citizen,
I'm a Democrat, so I say I'm pretty unbiased.
But you voted for Trump. But you voted for Trump, so you put him in power. For Biden. Sure, but you voted for Trump. Biden. Sure, but you voted for this. You're responsible for this.
As you guys know, this lady went viral for taking all the chickens at a Sam's Club in Los Angeles. Many people are mad about the situation. They were going off on her in the store. This lady proceeded to tell her she ain't never had shit and she was gonna slap her. The perfect example of mind your fucking business. She literally used all the chickens to feed the homeless and has been doing it for over 25 years. Straight genuinely giving back, no camera in sight. And I hope this lady feels real fucking stupid.
Let these motherfuckers tell you these people criminals, man. They over here raiding schools and job sites, construction sites, and Home Depot and all this shit. Bitch, criminals don't go to work. You dumb racist piece of shit motherfuckers. Criminals don't go to work. Criminals don't get up and go to work and pay their bills. Meanwhile, the real criminals, the people who really came over here illegally and came over here and didn't work, so what people came over here illegally? The people that came over here illegally and then got here and got their ass to work and they fucking do everything right, them ain't criminals, bro. There's actually people that came over here illegally and they over here scamming and robbing and stealing and doing real fucking crimes. But y'all ain't going after them. They still are out here. Don't let these pieces of shit fool you. We still have criminals on the streets because they're not going after criminals. They're going after the easiest targets, the people that are following the rules.
A new chapter in the internal conflict at CBS News over a shelved report critical of the Trump administration after making headlines for being pulled at the last minute. The 60-minute segment reporting on inhumane conditions at a maximum security prison in El Salvador, where the U.S. government deported undocumented immigrants, actually aired overnight in Canada on the Global Television Network.
It's a cell for punishment where you can't see your hand in front of your face. After they locked us in, they came to beat us every half hour.
It's unclear how or why the story aired in Canada. The report includes interviews with some deportees who allege abuse and torture.
When we got there, the Circuit director was talking to us. First thing he told us was that we would never see the light of day or night again.
The White House argues it is sending the worst of the worst to this prison.
These are heinous monsters, rapists, murderers, kidnappers, sexual assaulters, predators who have no right to be in this country, and they must be held accountable.
The segment asserts that nearly half of the Venezuelan deportees sent there had no criminal history. The story was shelved over the weekend by new CBS editor-in-chief Barry Weiss, in part because there was no interview with the Trump administration, according to a source at the network. Angry with the decision, correspondent Sharon Alfonsi emailed her fellow 60 Minutes colleagues. A copy of the email obtained by NBC News. Alfonsi writing in part, "The segment is factually correct. In my view, pulling it now, after every rigorous internal check has been met, is not an editorial decision, it is a political one." Weiss, for her part, writing in a statement, "Holding stories that aren't ready for whatever reason, that they lack sufficient context, say, or that they are missing critical voices, happens every day in every newsroom."
The reports that Homeland Security and the Trump administration declined their request for an interview and referred all questions about the prison to El Salvador. We reached out overnight to the White House and CBS News for comment and have not heard back, guys.
All right, Steph, thank you.
The Department of
Detained. When the arrival of human beings at the border to be detained looks like a scene straight out of fucking Schindler's List, you know that America has lost the motherfucking plot. We have lost the humanity in our existence, and the millions of Americans who are cheering this on, you're not only on the wrong side of history, you're on the wrong side of humanity. This you, MAGA? MAGA, this you?
Come on. Try and reach the far end. Pick up.
Fucking Schindler's List. You don't get to claim that you're doing anything good for the country when you dehumanize, humiliate, and torture regular human beings as if these men didn't have families waiting for them at home, as if their children aren't going to sleep at night sobbing. It would cost us billions of dollars less just to give them a way to enter the country legally. But this isn't about legal or not. This is about cruelty and who you think deserves to be treated like a human or not. What side of history are you on?
Yesterday, this Hanukkah event at the fucking White House yesterday goes to fucking show we have no control over our government at all. You got Trump coming up saying, "Oh, I'm so sad that the Israel lobby no longer has control over our government." Then Miriam Adelson comes up, "Don't worry about it, Trump. I'll give you another $250 million, like he's some fucking stripper on a pole, so you can win another election." But wait, what about the 22nd Amendment? Who gives a fuck? We're Jewish. This guy, Alan Dershowitz, this fucking Jew just told me we can do whatever the fuck we want to do. You can run again. And then Mark Levin's big fat dumbass comes up to Trump, puts his arm around him saying, "You're a Jewish president. I've been saying this for 6 years." It's like, but what about my Presbyterian upbringing? Who gives a fuck about that? We're Jewish. We can call you a Jew if we want to. And to add even more fuel to the fucking fire with this shit, Trump literally just picked some fat ass rabbi from Israel, Yehuda Kamplun, to head up some anti-Semitism division in our fucking State Department, where he has actively, openly said, "Oh yeah, I'm working with all our Jewish tech billionaires, like Larry Ellison, who owns Oracle, David Ellison, his son, who just bought Paramount, Nickelodeon and CBS, Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Meta, Facebook, and Instagram, Larry Page with Google." He's saying he's actively going to work with these niggas to censor Americans like me and you when we're critical of the Jews who run our fucking government after the bullshit we just saw at the Hanukkah event yesterday. We are not the United States of America. We're the United States of Israel right fucking now. We are literally a Jewish colony, and we have to do whatever the fuck it takes to get our sovereignty fucking back.
I'm a father. I don't want to see that. As a Border Patrol agent, I didn't sign up for this.
Are you worried that this will get worse?
Of course.
This one's in Thailand.
I've been to Thailand before.
Have you?
Beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful.
What comes with the island?
There's a small villa there. You could practically build what you want.
There's building things.
Yeah, there's
Do the islands come with
the children or the children?
This island does have a small school. There are children.
Okay, so I don't know if that was a
yeah.
What countries are near to abduct them from?
Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam,
Philippines.
The Philippines.
Of course.
The Filipinos, you know, if they're not being a nurse, they're being your crew. Okay, so
True.
yeah. So
What age ranges?
below 10, I don't really.